Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. It is 10:44. Hope everyone's doing good. It is a cold as fuck day here. We're still technically, I think, a few days away from the winter solstice, but it's winter, so hope everyone's doing good. The weather, the weather gets to me. The cold weather. I've talked about it before, but it's been good. I think I've been, I don't know, it's always subjective, but I think I've been relatively productive so far this winter. I mean, I've been doing a lot of videos here. I've been trying to work on a lot of music. I've been writing a lot of new tunes and trying to pick away with all those things. Been watching a lot of movies, which has been really cool. I've been going to see some cool shows. I'm going tonight with some friends to see a couple of really amazing bands in Portland. Ann Anderson and Cushing. They're playing at the Ophodian Theater in Portland. Just phenomenal bands. We got to play with them, well, minus Cushing because they got sick and they couldn't play. But a few weeks ago, I had a show with Osmia and Ann Anderson played. They're from the Lewiston, Maine area, and I was just floored by how amazing these guys are. So I'm really excited. And as far as music or gigs go, gigs usually, it always it drops off quite a bit. But I have some things coming up next week. We have our big show coming up, which I'm really really excited about at Hey Sailor, and it's Quantum and Travis Lloyd, and it's going to be on the 19th. I'm really really excited about that. I've been doing a lot of promotion for it, and in the next few days, I'm going to be hitting it, extra hard to try to get people out. It's at 7 o'clock, so I'm really really excited about that. And then Quantum, we also got asked to do another show pretty close to Christmas time. I haven't announced it yet. I'm still getting the details, but we just got asked to do a showcase, like a show during the week. I think it's on a Monday or Tuesday night, and it's a Quantum set. And as soon as I get the details, and it's coming up pretty soon, so we got asked to do that. Pretty excited about that if that all works out. And then I'm in the midst of putting together this other Quantum show. So yeah, other things coming up, and otherwise, I went to Opera House Video. Today's Friday, and I went to Opera House Video. I think it was Tuesday night. I think it was Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday night. They started doing this DVD sale because they're selling. They don't really sell. They have. They've had about three or four of them that they do these street sales. They tend to do that during the summer or springtime when it's warm out. And I've gotten some killer movies. I've gone to. They've had about three of them, and three or four of them, and I've gone to three of them. There was one I missed, but I've gotten. There were a couple times I went where they had these street sales where they have all these DVDs. They even have VHS, but they actually had a lot of Blu-rays, super cheap, virtually like a buck. And I've gotten some killer movies through that, and you just never know. I mean, when it comes to for my habits, I try to seek out, a lot of weird and underground movies, a lot of exploitation movies, and just rare shit. And I've been, I during those sales, I bought some like bigger Hollywood movies that I really like or love a lot. But I also got quite a few of these like super underground kind of low budget slasher exploitation movies, which I was so surprised that they had, and I got them on DVD. And the quality wasn't really great, but nevertheless, those movies are awesome anyway, and I'll still watch them. But so they probably won't have another sale like that for a while because it's middle of winter here. But they'll do it probably in the spring or summer again. So the but they've been doing this special sale at Opera House Video of unopened, kind of pretty much brand new DVDs. No Blu-rays, unfortunately. So I went there when they announced the sale. I went there and they didn't have too much put out. And then I went again on Monday night, I think it was, and they had about I think they had about 450 titles, of all DVDs, no Blu-rays, uh, all sealed, all unused. None of them were used. All of them were unused, unopened, and they had pretty good prices. $6. Some of them were a little bit too expensive for DVDs, but they were still pretty cheap. And I went there not knowing if I could find something, and man, I struck gold. I'm doing the next few shows for this channel are going to be all about these movies, and I just uploaded a video for this just incredible film that I saw that's included with this package. So I got this at Opera's Video, and this was like, I'm blown away by how amazing this is. I finished up these movies the other night. Axe, which is going to be today, or sorry, Axe, which is the video I just uploaded, and in today's show is Kidnapped Coed. These are both films by Frederick Friedel, a horror exploitation director from the 70s that I never heard of. This is an absolutely amazing, and this is DVD. And the other thing that I was blown away by is that it was put out by Severin. And of course, Severin is, one of the premier, probably the biggest boutique label out there that specializes in all kinds of trash cinema. And so I was so taken aback when I saw this. I was just like, what? Severin? Like, because I never knew they put out DVDs. And this was really cheap. Plus, it was 2 movies. And there's a bunch of special features on here. Super amazing. What a discovery. This is like some of the best discoveries I've had in watching and seeing new movies for the first time. These movies have gone right to the top of my list of some of my favorite movies right now that I've seen. These are old, 74. So today's show is on the second movie that's on here, Kidnapped Coed. This movie is just, I don't know, extraordinary. It's a total, sleazy exploitation movie. It's rough and nasty. Frederick Friedel is a director that, again, I didn't know anything about. I'm going to do a special show on him because he really deserves the attention. And the first movie on here, Axe, which I did a review on, and I just uploaded the video on Axe. That movie was one of the movies that made the Video Nasties list, which is pretty crazy. It was banned. It was essentially banned for its graphic nature. But it's amazing. It's amazing. It's a slasher film and definitely a horror film. Kidnapped Coed is a very different movie. It is pretty rough, though. There are some pretty gnarly scenes, especially the first half of this movie. But it's such an interesting movie because it's essentially about this guy. The cast is amazing, and there's a lot of the same actors from Axe in this film that are just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. The storyline is such an interesting storyline because it's essentially a kidnap movie, and it's about this guy who's this kind of criminal, or he is this criminal, and he kidnaps this girl who is the daughter of a very wealthy guy, and so he ends up kidnapping her, and they get into all of these really kind of crazy and insane situations. And in the midst of what's like kind of transpiring, he ends up like basically saving her life, and they end up like kind of falling in love in the midst of all of this craziness going around. And it's such a wild movie. It's super brutal. There's a few scenes in this movie that are incredibly violent and disturbing. It's pretty brutal. It's a brutal movie. But then it is the tone of this movie. That's the thing I was so surprised with this movie, is how the tone shifts so much. Because Axe, the first movie in this set, is like pure unadulterated, horror exploitation the whole way through, and it's very dark and brutal and heavy, but entertaining as all hell. With Kidnapped Coed, it's definitely um, a low down and dirty exploitation movie. Not really. I mean, it's very violent. There's moments of there's one sequence in this movie that is really brutal, um, brutally violent. But then the movie, the tone, there's like numerous tones to this movie, and suddenly you're almost brought into a different film with these characters because of all of these kind of changes that their characters go through. And so I don't know. It's not a horror movie. It's definitely a one part of it is definitely like a really violent kind of crime caper film, and then it actually has like some comedy elements in it as you go. And in this super bizarre way, it almost becomes like a road movie or like a buddy road movie, and then it almost has this feeling where it's kind of a love story, all kind of combined. And Frederick Friedel is a, I mean, he only did two movies. Again, I just discovered him for the first time, but he like knocked it out of the fucking park with both of these movies. I mean, they're both horror exploitation movies, or I should say, they're both exploitation movies. But yet the other one, they're both so different from each other. They're super raw, super nasty. I mean, uber low budget. But my God, like talk about using every dollar, and it's a great story. I'm amazed. I love how different they are from each other from both films. Kidnap Coed, I did not know. When it starts, the first 20 minutes, it's pretty dark, it's pretty intense. And then, I don't know, 15 minutes later, I feel like I'm in a different movie. Even though, and I totally, like, was loving these characters. But, like, tonally, I was like, wait, this is just gone, you know, completely in a different direction that I definitely did not see coming. And I was like, wow, like that's really, really cool, really interesting. And, again, that's what happens with, and I think this is these movies are prime time example, especially this movie, Kidnap Coed. You know, again, I think a lot of people don't the actual give actual credit to some films that are in kind of the lowbrow trash, barrel of the cinema world. Because they do. I mean, in some ways, people regard those films as like they're kind of like they're not really movies. There's nothing, artistic about them, or they're not really saying anything. They're just trash. They're just pure, trash. But and I think, it's like that. I think for some people who look at exploitation cinema, they kind of look at it as like, the whole mystery science theater thing. Like that's all it is. And I love that part of it. I love that you can make fun of it. I love that it's so bad it's good. I love that it's so trashy and and weird and just low budget. But again, there are a lot of films in the genre that are actually good. Like actually really there's some really good stories. That's one thing since I've been exploring these movies more and more, along with all of those classic tropes that I want for a lot of these films, and the reason, and those tropes are the reasons I love these movies so much. But within that, I've been finding that like wow, like there's some actual like there's some good stories. There's actually some really good acting. As quote unquote shitty as they are, there's some good shit. Like, and I love that. That's the thing I love about these movies is this is like this double um, double duty set is a primetime example of there is so much diversity in the world of exploitation. I mean, you can if you're craving a crime action movie, you can check that out. If you're craving a nun exploitation movie, you can check that out. If you're looking for science fiction, you can totally find that. If you're looking for pure horror based exploitation, you can. If you want a total slasher, you know, experience, you can find that. If you want a very, just bizarre and surrealistic experience, art house experience, if you will, you can find that too. I mean, There's so much diversity, and there's a lot of films in the exploitation world, and I think this is a really great example of that, where you have a lot of films that are like really serious and heavy, but because they are to a degree so bad, they're good. There's a levity to it, and but then you also have films that have with Kidnap Coed, where it's wild how it blends elements of comedy, um, violence, and kind of a love story all in one movie, and just wild, just totally wild. Totally did not expect it. The cast for this movie is absolutely tremendous too. I think that for me, for me, it's the selling point. It really is. And like I said just a second ago, the cast is the selling point for this movie. I've said it many times, probably too many times, but for me, it's like if the movie is, for all intents and purposes, kind of a pile of dog shit. But I would say it's in the case. I totally believe in it, and I it's a cliche thing to say, but I totally believe that for me it's very true. But where you say something is so bad it's good, like I do believe that. Um, and it's an interesting thing because I do that a lot where I will, revisit. I typically watch, the '70s are it's my favorite decade, of course. I always go back to it, and I always love to watch movies from that time period. But then I also love to watch like, say bigger Hollywood films or quote unquote normal movies to see if they, if they hold up now in 2025. I think that's in general, like when I'm revisiting a movie or seeing a movie for the first time, but especially if I'm revisiting a movie from like, say, when I was a kid or, my 20s, I always like look for that to see, oh, does this movie still resonate? Does it still like, does it still say something? Does it feel like, even too, when I first saw the movie, was it, because sometimes that happens of where you feel like this movie, or maybe that director's vision for that particular movie was like kind of ahead of his time. I think Denis Villeneuve's a director like that. Stanley Kubrick, without a doubt, prime time example of that. And so every now and then I'll watch a movie where it will be like, oh wait, this really does hold up. This is really great. And then in some ways, oh man, it's not. It's dated, but and it's a fine balance between something being like really really dated for all the wrong reasons, and yet watching a movie from the '70s, like these movies, super dated. I mean, it's all '70s, total '70s vibe, all around for everyone. But ultimately, and it is dated, but I think it's it's just the whole aesthetic and the aesthetics around it are just so fucking cool. And it's funny because like when you think of like the idea of like what people kind of refer to in art, whether something is like whether it's like fashion, music, art, just anything in art, books, it could be anything. But like when people throw around that term of like something that's cool, like something that's really cool or something that's hip, I kind of feel like it doesn't really carry a lot of water sometimes, like, or it doesn't really carry any weight. But I think if anything, if you're going to say something's like something that I think officially should get that label as like something that's legitimately fucking cool, are these movies. because to me it's like when I put in these movies, especially these movies, since I just watched them, Axe and Kidnap Coed, they're just so cool because the music is so cool. I mean, it's a lot of the music is a lot of really cool kind of funk inspired music from the 70s. Um, and there's a really cool electronic element to a lot of these film scores. I'm going to be doing some more shows on film scores soon. Um, and it's a big component of creating the atmosphere. And and then also like with a lot of, even giallo films, there's a lot of kind of lounge music and a lot of really cool jazz music in a lot of those movies as well from the 70s and 60s. And being that electronic music's my favorite, that's a big component because that was kind of the first wave of a lot of these new synths that were coming out. So that music was really used a lot in a lot of those exploitation movies. And it's just the rawness, the fashion sense, the style, everything. And I'm like, if anything, if you're gonna ever apply the word or the label of something being cool, this is where it's at. Totally, totally. And again, it's the strength of this movie. Again, well, I was starting to say, like for me, if the atmosphere is really great, that's really all I want, all I really need. Anything else that comes with that or after that is a super bonus. That's really, that anything else that comes after that of like good quality, I'm on board. But usually, if it just has a really cool atmosphere, I'm totally down with it. I'm not like I'm. It's funny. I'm not like uber picky, but then I kind of am. I've had people say that to me where I've gone to, I've had quite a few experiences of where I've gone to the movies, right? For instance, and typically, obviously, when I go to the movies, and I've been going to the movies more this year, 2025. I've seen more movies this year, 2024 and 22, and this year, 2025. These 2 years, I've seen a lot more movies. I've been going to the movies quite a bit, which has been really, really awesome. But I've had people say that to me where, there's been some movies that I've seen that I've been really disappointed with and I didn't really like. And I'm, highly critical about it. And then I'll talk about it and a couple of situations of where I've said that to somebody and they know that I love all of these trashy exploitation movies and that I watch them all the time. And they're like, I don't understand. Like, why do you pick apart this bigger Hollywood movie that you saw in the theater and you hate it so much, or you just were so like depressed or bummed out by it, but yet you watch all these trash films, and which, for all intents and purposes, are kind of like garbage. And I'm like, well, you don't. For me, it's that thing of like, there's no levity. Everything is too serious sometimes. I like there to be. I love the rawness of it. That's the thing. And to me, it's like I've always explained it that way. It's like putting on a punk rock record. It's just like coming at you. But the strength, the big strength for Kidnap Coed is the cast. The cast is just awesome. Jack Cannon, Leslie Rivers, and Gladys Laviton and Larry Lambeth. Just incredible. The two leads in this film, Leslie Rivers and Jack Cannon. Jack Cannon was also one of the stars in Axe, and he is amazing. This guy is such a great actor. He is such a badass in this movie, both movies. But he's a really good actor, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And it's funny watching this movie or both of these movies, and especially with Kidnap Coed because he really plays this kind of a complex character. One minute he's kind of this like terrifying person, but then he's like very funny and compassionate, and you just totally have empathy for towards him, and you like care about him. And in Axe, he is just, he's like a psychopath, a total fucking psychopath. So, and I had no, and I know I've seen him in other things. I know I have. I guess he was in. I'm gonna do a show on him because he's so damn good in this movie and both of these movies. But I think Kidnap Coed, especially because it shows that he's not just the guy who can play the heavy, or not just the guy who can play the psychopath. He can bring a lot of different emotions to the screen, and that's into his characterization of this guy because he's kind of a complex character. Really, really, really cool discovery, and I know there's something familiar about him, so I know I've probably seen him in other movies, and from what I have read about his career, I think he passed away quite a few years ago, but he was in a lot of television shows or television movies in the 70s and 80s, and that's probably where I saw him before. And also, um, Leslie Rivers, who is the lead in this, she's extraordinary. She plays the girl who gets kidnapped, and just a killer performance. Like, again, the same thing where she is. There's so many different emotions and different colors that she's kind of bringing to her performance. It's really diverse because she's very, in the beginning she is very vulnerable, very scared, this terrified person, and she virtually has. There's virtually no dialogue by her character in this movie, especially in the beginning. But then as the film goes, you really see her character open up. And when this whole film kind of moves into this kind of bizarre or well, very surprising, area of where it like feels like, wait, is this kind of a love story? She just shines because you see her like kind of open up like a flower, and she is just, showing all of these, you know, really cool sides to her character, her personality. She's very funny. She's smart, and really just really diverse. And I'm just totally blown away by this. So great! I can't wait to watch these movies again. What a discovery! Kidnap Coed, 1974. Both of these movies were shot at the same time, and they came out within the same time. And from what I gather, I'm going to do a show on Frederick Friedel. He never did any other movies since then. And on this disc, there's some really great interviews with him that are just pretty phenomenal. And I want to do a show on him just as a director because what a fucking discovery. So, Kidnap Coed, phenomenal exploitation movie, unlike any other film that I've seen in recent time. So, thanks again, and keep on rocking.